Hi guys! Welcome to another episode of Yoga Break It Down. I'm Yoga Suze. In this episode, we are going to explore triangle pose. Very possibly triangle pose along with downward dog are probably the two most well-known yoga poses. For this pose, you want to use a yoga mat so that you have traction, so that your feet do not slide away from each other, and so that the toes can relax or spread out. You're going to bring your feet about 2 to 3 feet apart. What we are going to refer to as the forward foot will be pointed out. So if it's your left foot, point it out. If it's your right foot, point it out. And your foot will be aligned with the sides of the mat. So it will be a parallel line. Some people practice this position with the back foot pointing straight out, meaning if you were going to draw a line from the heel of your forward facing foot straight back to hit the back foot, some people place the foot so that you have a straight line going this way. So you'd have two perpendicular lines. You can have your foot in that position, but if you feel discomfort in the knee, I recommend turning the foot slightly inwards, because what that means is that your hip is really wanting to rotate forward and is resisting opening up. When your foot is in this position, that means the shin is facing this direction too, and the lower part of the knee is facing this direction. If you are struggling with your hip opening to keep the upper leg also facing this direction, and therefore the upper part of the knee facing this direction, if there's a struggle and the hip keeps wanting to rotate inwards, meaning towards that forward foot, there would be a pull in the knee in two different directions. So if you are feeling discomfort in the knee, turn the foot slightly forward, meaning ever so slightly in the direction of what we're calling the forward foot, so that there's not that resistance with the direction that the hip is wanting to rotate in the knee. I have seen this pose taught in different ways, as far as how do you want your back foot placed in relationship to the forward foot. You will see in this demonstration, again, if I drew a line straight back from the heel of the forward foot, that it would intersect with the arc or the middle of my back foot. So that's where I place the back foot. Some people would align the back foot so that if you drew a straight line back from the heel of the forward foot all the way back, it would intersect with the heel of the back foot. I find that a little less easy to balance in. As you'll see in my demonstrations, I already struggle with a little bit of balance in this more triangular position. So with my foot position, you think of sort of the isosceles triangle, narrow triangle, but I find it's a little better support. Once you have your feet in position, you tune into the feet sinking down into the mat. So the ball and the heel are both sinking down evenly down into the mat. Your toes are either relaxed or actively spread. You want to avoid having your toes hold on to the mat. So the purpose of the mat is to provide traction. You shouldn't need to also hold on to the mat with your toes. So try to let them relax or spread out. As the feet sink down, tune into your legs. You're going to lengthen up through the legs, and you're going to start to shift your hips back. As you do that, you want the torso to lengthen the other direction, going towards the front foot. So now you sort of see why we call it the front foot. It's going to be where we are oriented as far as the extension of the torso and where the hand will be placed. So the hips extend back, you're lengthening up through the legs. If you need to maintain a bend in the knee, feel free to. Fully lengthening this way, the torso extending this way, and when you can't extend in those two directions any further, allow the arm that's over on the side of the forward leg, let it drop, let it dangle. So you're not trying to reach your toes, you're not trying to dive for the toes of the front foot. Just allow that arm to dangle. The work here is the alignment of the torso, the hips, and the legs. We're keeping the entire body in line except for the toes of the back foot that are sticking out, or the heel of the back foot. So you're trying to keep everything in a line. If we were to dive for those toes, we would most likely come out of that alignment. The torso would come out of the alignment of the legs. When the hand dangles, it'll most likely touch some part of the leg, so you can let it rest there. Try to relax in that shoulder and bend in the elbow. Continue to lengthen up your legs, hips extending back, torso extending forward, arm relaxed, lengthening. And then you got to focus on the upper side of the torso, hip, shoulder. You need to rotate the torso open. So you really want this side of the torso, the upper side, facing the ceiling. You have to tune into your hip. Rotate the hip open. You got to keep reminding it to rotate open. And the shoulder as well, so that your chest is facing forward. You can raise the upper arm, and the alignment of the arms in the initial position should be a straight line from the fingers of the upper arm all the way through the arm, through the chest, out through the other shoulder, out through the arm. You might have a bend, at the elbow of the lower arm, but the general idea of the shoulders, arms, chest, all in a line. You can keep that upper arm straight up over the shoulder, or to add a nice stretch to the side of the torso, you can extend the arm overhead and possibly lean the torso a little bit that way. But if you're going to lean the torso, make sure to keep the hips, again, extending back behind you. In regards to the placement of the head, that really depends on if you feel balanced. So in general, in yoga, I recommend turning the eyes wherever you feel a sense of balance. So we work on this obviously when we're doing our balance poses standing on one foot, but triangle is a balance pose as well, because it's not a position that we usually stand in, even though we are still on 2 feet. So we have to practice this. If you feel balanced, you can see if it feels good to turn your head to look up at the ceiling to sort of get a nice stretch in the neck. But again, if you feel very wobbly when you do that, you can keep the gaze straight forward or another place where you do feel balanced. As with our other balance poses, you do not want to hold this pose until you fall out of it. You want to spend some time experiencing the stretches, working on the contact of the feet to the floor, and then when you're ready to come up, maybe arms extended in the 2 different directions, and that upper arm is going to help guide you up to standing gracefully. You want to hold the pose for a length of time where you're feeling the stretches, you're working on the balance, but not past the point where you can come up with a degree of balance and grace. Letting the fingers or hand come to your leg is how I usually practice triangle pose. I'm also demonstrating options of using a block or extending to a table. So if you feel either any reach down is not attainable or comfortable, and particularly if you feel like you have a lot of work in that extension of the torso, that you feel like you tend to just reach down without a good lengthening in the torso, using the table can be good, and maybe even setting it a little further than I have so you can reach a little bit further. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Yoga Break It Down. Remember to hit the subscribe button and share this video with friends. Remember that everybody needs yoga. So that means Cynthia Nixon needs yoga, haunted house actors need yoga, grave diggers, they need yoga too. But you especially, baby, you need yoga as well. So I really hope you join me next time on Yoga Break It Down. Bye-bye.